Hello, Mavericks. Me, Mr. McBride. We're going to talk about option 2. If you were someone that chose option 2 for your St. Basil's inspired towers, you are going to be watching this video, trying to figure out what I was talking about when I said, hey, use washable markers and we're going to use water with a brush. We'll talk about how to do it, how to be successful, and also some options for that. Just to double check, make sure if it says washable on your marker, this is something that you can do, option 2. If it didn't say washable when you used it, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to work. So let's talk about it. So the way it works is you use a washable marker, get a wet brush, and you're going to go over some of your areas with just a little bit of water, and you go over it multiple times, and you're going to push down the color to the other side. And when you add that water, it makes the part of the ink a little bit thinner, and so it lightens it in the area that you're doing it. So I have a dark part and I have a light part. And it might not look that light to begin with, but as it dries, it gets lighter and lighter. And if you remember seeing my example in the previous weeks, you can see that here was my first purple, but when I got done, it became like a pink. So you can take a decently dark color and make it really light using this technique. So I can already tell it's working. Just keep in mind, make sure you are having your areas really filled. So this is a lot of ink, so it's gonna work really easily when I go with my water or my brush and I do a couple brush strokes across that ink patch. If I have it spread out, like if anything looks like this and it's not very dark for that color, then you need to add more marker because it's not going to work that much. It has to push the color to the other side to get it to light. To get into light. And if it's already spaces in between or there's not a lot of ink, it's not going to work. All right, next part, we're going to talk about what you could do with it. So on option 2, you guys can. There's a lot of different ways you can do this, but what I would keep in mind when you're doing this is use a little bit of water and a lot of strokes. What I mean by that, and I'm going too quick, look, I'm pushing the color to the other side. Learn from my mistakes, see, right there? I'm going too quick. You slow down. Use a little bit of water and a lot of brush strokes because what's happening is the color is getting pushed to the other side of the page. The water is helping it, but you're also pushing it down by having lots of brush strokes. If you do lots of water, what could happen is it could flow out in a direction that you weren't anticipating. Well, I've been using a little bit of water and I've been stroking it for a moment. I've been doing lots of brush strokes. I don't know if it's actually working. How do you make sure that it's working? And what you do is you flip it over to the other side, and if you can see color being shown through on the back, that means that you've been pushing the ink towards the back and it is working. That means when this little section I've been working on is dry, it will be a lighter green than the greens around it, okay? Just to double check. You know it's working when you see the color on the other side. So it seems to be working right here. Let me show you what not to do. So I said little water, lots of strokes, lots of brush strokes, I mean. So what you don't want to have is lots of water. You don't want to shovel bunches of water on there and start pushing it around because then it could flow into different directions because water flows, right? It could flow into directions that you weren't wanting it to. And maybe this looks okay, like a happy little accident, like, oh, you know what? I could use some of that color and that green and make it nice like watercolors. Looks kind of nice. But what if I already had a yellow or I had another color right here in this area? I would be out of luck. So don't use too much water. Don't shovel water into an area. Take a little bit of water, maybe wipe it off on the lip of the cup, and then start going and picking where you want to lighten and rub, and go back and forth until it starts showing on the other side. See, look, I have so much water. If I was going to put this up to like dry, it might flow and whoosh, go across. So don't use too much water. Little water, lots of brush strokes. I'll show you on a different color how it can look. Some rub, rub, rub. You can go back for more water if you need to, but I wouldn't shovel it in one thing after another. Just have a little bit, push it down. If it looks like it's not doing anything, get some more water. I've been rubbing it for a while, so I'm going to go check. It's really dark on this side, so it's definitely working. Maybe you've been rubbing for a while and it's still not working. This isn't a scientific method, so I can't guarantee certain results with certain colors, but what I would watch out for is if you start getting what we used to call, and it's been so long since we called it, but paper boogies, like where the paper gets all these little nasty boogers on the surface. And I've been stirring up some, right? They'll get in your brush. They'll be on the top of your page. When you start seeing those, it's getting really close to the time you should stop. You probably should just stop, because what's happening is the paper is getting so worked up that it's getting weak and it's starting to shed. And eventually, if you keep going, you're gonna punch a hole in your paper. Now, I don't think that's really gonna happen for you guys, because you'll be paying attention and taking it slow and not using tons of water where the paper will get weak, okay? So just use a little water, lots of brush strokes. That's option 2. When you're done, it could turn out something like this. You're gonna have light versions of your colors and you're gonna have dark versions of your color. And it's gonna add lots of more variety for your artwork, and it's gonna look amazing. I'll show you a couple more things and then we'll be off. You can work with your pattern. So I had diagonal lines on this tower. I work with my pattern. My water's in the dots. I can work against my pattern, so my lines go this way, but my watercolor or my water lines go that way, the opposite way, right? Or I can have what are like organic designs where I'm just putting in, I put in little pools of water, not too much, right? But I'm not going with the design. I'm just putting them in little puddles and I spread them out. What that looks like is on the green one, it looks like this. I just pad down some water and I let it sit, maybe rub it in just a little bit. And eventually that's gonna dry and it's gonna make an organic shape like you see right over here. All right, that's all the tips for option number 2. If you have any questions, reach out to me on Schoology. Take it slow and pay attention to your work environment, okay? If you're working at a table and even though you're working with water, when you push that color down, it might make a mess. That's why I have a messy mat here. Make sure your table area is clean because it's almost like you're painting. All right, guys, it's been wonderful talking to you. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.